In the name of God, the most benevolent and the most merciful and the most advanced. I wanted to talk about how I feel like my inner realms are changing. I don't know why since yesterday something's been feeling off for me. And so it just occurred to me that I have no clue what sort of moments will find me. And so I titled this lecture Moments That Find You because it is not just a performance for others. I am not just existing for others. I am existing in front of my own presence. Anyways, for this lecture, there was the intention to communicate the eerie feeling of how the future approaches us. We don't just go towards the future comes to us as a human being in this world with a certain range of observation of reality. In that range of observation of reality, I have found many human initiatives to be meaningless or to be meaningful only in one reality, like in from one view. I know that in this system, we all die, we all change, and there will come a moment where we will leave the moment, or our moment will leave us. I am reaching that point where I feel like I'm losing myself, but I don't understand why. I think it's, I'm starting to realize, I think I should avoid becoming a public figure. What's up, guys? Welcome to the chat section. Today's episode is more of me kind of trying to see what's going on in my own mind than trying to share something that I'm seeing in my mind with you, specifically. And just this notion of what type of moment will find me, or as a being in a realm, what is there to wonder about? And sometimes what bothers me, not that it bothers me, but it's a bit uncomfortable to think about it, is that human beings were evolving, were in some sense advancing on the surface of the earth unconsciously. That means if you were unconscious, there was no sort of yeah, guys, it's all good. You don't have to linger here. Treat this lecture as a branch, and as a bird, you can come and land on it for a little bit and then fly off to a different tree. But Guys, what I'm trying to tell you, or maybe what I'm trying to tell myself, is that if I was not conscious of reality, reality could not hurt me and I could not be an identity. So it's this weird situation where on this planet, because we're conscious, there is the ability to generate meaning or to give meaning to what we see, right? And then we organize that meaning in the sense that we're a character in a story, and the whole world is a story to be uncovered, right? So on some level, you're looking at this existential place, you're just looking at this, you're seeing this geometry, and then there is an awareness, there's an attention to this geometry that looks at the geometry, organizes it, classifies it, and then functions. So really, what my human experience is an ability of an existential being to experience a certain range of forms and then to recalibrate, realign those forms either into itself or into its world where it gets the meaning. In other words, people are either being concepts or they're being contexts. Right now you're like being a context in my experience. You guys are the world. I am the one right now in this moment in it. You know what I mean? So pretty much I'm wondering about destiny. I'm wondering how much of what's going to happen in this life can be processed and cannot be. Because if a human being experiences a moment they don't understand, they in some sense they are not stabilized, they're confused. I'm like this being. I notice existence being, but I also notice how my mind makes how existence, like, gives it the way it's being. Okay? And something that I've been aware of is that life is you can move from multiple angles, you can move differently. But I also believe that existence is a communication, and I also find that everything that happens may not have the significance to the person, but it is significant to the presence of the whole moment. You see, I either have to accept the small or accept the big. If I accept the big, I suffer for being small. If I accept the small, I will never be big. There's that kind of suffering. So actually there's two kinds of suffering a person, I guess, in like similar position I'm in, can choose. Somebody once said it, I think it was Jordan Peterson, I don't know, somebody said, like, life is not life, at least you can, it's like it's not possible to not suffer, but at least you can choose your suffering. And I guess what I'm understanding in this moment is that I have been inspired by the outcome. So for example, I'm giving these talks and I'm like, yo man, like at the beginning when I started giving these talks, in my mind, you don't know, like the first talks I would give, it was in this accommodation area in 2000, this was in 2014, okay? And there was this grass field and there were these benches without like a backrest. So I would walk on these benches as if it was a podium at night, you know? And there was like the whole grass field, every straw of grass was like an audience member in my mind. I envisioned that, you know? But now I gotta choose the suffering. Do I want to suffer by not knowing who I will be, who I can be? Or do I suffer by seeing who I can be and not being who I was anymore? That means from one angle, I lose my past self. From another angle, I lose my future self. Okay, and I find that, like, you know, even though I'm making this personal, I'm saying this is something I'm experiencing, but I think this is universal, guys. You know, we are either living for our past self or for our future self, you know, and they don't make us conscious of this, so we don't know what's going on. But this is the case, guys. You're either living for who you become, or you're living for who you are. And the hilarious thing about this world is that it will change it all. It changes it all. Like, how do I explain it? I can feel the life force changing. Stop it. O might of madness, rage. Oof. So, existential being deployed on Earth, 12,400 days. 12,400 self-simulations. 400 plus self-simulations. And I find myself in a position, you know, but I can use another tactic here. I could bring another tactic here. So if I'm in a position where, in regards to my identity, I gotta choose: do I want to live? Do I want to live for the experience of who I will be, or do I want to remain in the experience of who I am? And the difficulty is not knowing what you gain from each. You know, you don't know if it's better to become someone else, or you don't know if you should have been that same person. You know. But in order to, because this view is difficult, I got to bring another dimension of consideration, and I've got to think of it this way: what if it's not about a concept living for one concept in a context living for its past or living for its future, but what if it's a difference of living for a concept and for a context? For example, when I live for myself, I am living for a concept. But when I live for the world or for the advancement of all of this, that's the context. And so this is the hilarious thing, that I find that logically, if everybody lived for the context of the world, every concept would be way more advanced. They would have way more access. But people live for the concepts they find. It's like you're a concept trying to find another concept, and who you are truly behind your eyes is remodifying itself. It's concept hopping. We're all concept hopping to some degree, but I'm telling you, you know, this is by far perhaps one of the deepest views I've had. Excuse me. I guess the deepest view I've had is this, like where I'm at now, is should I live for the context of should I live for the concepts that I have access to, that I personalize? Or should I live for the impersonal context of the world? And for the first time, guys, I'm in a dilemma, because I don't know. If I live for myself, I get to experience a self. If I live for the world, I am experiencing the world's self. So anyways, guys, we don't know what sort of moments find us. We don't know really what we deserve, I guess. We don't know if we are even adjusted for certain moments, you know? And we don't know what the future holds. But one thing all of us can be certain is that if we are born young and then we grow old, the more we identify with a body and with a mind, or excuse me, if the more we identify as a body, I'm pretty much saying if I identify as my body alone, then I'm starting to realize something so profound. If we all start as bodies, okay, we're physical beings, right? We start off with high energy, and as we grow older, it's like a bell curve. There's lower energy. So when you reach the middle point, the meridian of the bell curve, okay, the middle of the bell curve, and you want to, in some sense, it's going down the bell curve, okay, where you're getting older and older. Reality doesn't stop. Reality is like always young. At least, excuse me, human culture, human global culture is like always, I don't know how to explain it. It's like you get old and you had a certain time frame to do something, and then you start being less capable of doing that thing as you get older. So one thing we all know is that life will become more intense if we identify with the physicality that is like it's diminishing. So this is the profound idea I just got, the profound view I saw. I think that I think human beings are living wrong. We should, by midpoint of our life, no longer be identifying as physical beings. The midpoint of life, I can see the future, guys. They're not gonna get old. They're not gonna get old in the future. They're gonna live probably like up to like, maybe 40, and then they're gonna stop being a physical being. Or maybe, I don't know. You see, this is the thing. Either we create immortality technology. I talked about this in my sci-fi. Either we create immortality technology, so the human body, I don't know, through nanotechnology that's like become organic or something, I don't know, like or even right now, I think in the next 10-15 years they have organ regeneration, but it's probably not for commercialized for people. Do you know what I mean? That means, for example, if your heart has a problem, they, out of your own DNA, they create a heart for you, another heart for you, like out of your own DNA, and they replace your heart with that. We're moving towards this. There's when I just like how you see something and you're like, why is there this shape here? Because there's something to happen with that shape. I believe existence is the sector of reality where, like, we think that we just arrived, we think we were born here, we don't see the journey up to here. And one thing we're certain, everybody takes for granted what they have, because when you start in this life, you're unconscious of what you have. You're even unconscious of who you are as a child, like as a toddler. If you go see like a child's brain, like a very young child, okay, like can't speak nothing, right? That child's communication with its environment is mimicking its environment. That means if the mother comes and says, ooh, like, acts cheerful, the child is going to smile. If the mother cries, the child is going to cry. It's similar with, other species as well. For example, you have like, what do you call it? Dogs. Dogs, like you can go, some people think the dogs like actually like, somehow over time understanding what the person is saying, but the dog has a language of emotional calibration. So if the person goes and says, you're a stupid dog, but says it in a kind of like, good boy, like says it that way, the dog's not, do you understand? Obviously the dog doesn't comprehend language, but I'm telling you that it mimics the emotion. Okay. Like, so we're raised as this sort of like, I don't know, system that is mimicking its environment, and over time begins to realize it is separate from its environment, and then becomes responsible of maintaining the separateness of its individualism with the collective presence of everything else it is seeing, right? So where I'm going with this is, guys, life, it is a bell curve, okay? And in one, I don't know, talk, like, I don't know, maybe like 100 talks ago, I talked about how this bell curve, AI will come and fill the gap. Do you know what I mean? That means I wouldn't be surprised if, you know, serious, like, you know, in my sci-fi, the world is divided into sectors. That means when I've envisioned the future of human civilization, there's sectors. So for example, there's a sector of civilization mainly at the center, kind of like an onion style, like in a sort of concentric circles style, you know, sort of metropolis, imagine. And the center of it is the sober, pure sector. Okay, and you're pretty much seeing like concentric, bigger circles, and the center of civilization will be healthy. The furthest edges of civilization will be unhealthy. But the healthy center is going to motivate all the other, the circumference of the last concentric circle. We human beings, or the intelligence that we are, has pretty much like, doesn't have that many options, right? I've checked this. You know, there was a day I just got my notebook, I sat down and I'm like, I'm gonna actually see what can I do as a being. Like I just forgot about my body does this, my mind does that. I was just like, okay, let me just see as an intelligence, what am I, like, what can I do here? Okay, and I realized that a majority of life, human life, is physical. How do I explain it? Pretty much, there's a lot of coordinated, repeated movements you got to do as a human being. I see it this way. We can either go without or within. We can either have our outer realms move first, then our inner realms, or our inner realms move first, then our outer realms. If the inner realms moves first, you're inspired by what you want to be rather than what is. If the outer realms moves, what is inspiring what you want to be. In the future, human identity, this is something they don't say. Most people think human identity is based on form. So, yo, you look like this, that's your identity. You're wearing that, that's your identity. You say that, that's your identity. But human identity is based on ability. Even the world tells us this. That means you could be nobody, and then you go into Olympics, beat everybody else, and everybody's like, yo, man, you know, everybody knows your name. But what is the value of that? You know what's bizarre? I am trying to figure out the actual value system of a changing world. And how does the human mind work? Communication projects images. This whole time, we have been internally viewing reality, thinking that that viewer is what it's viewing. You know, it's very difficult for me to say if I am my body or if I am moving my body. It is difficult for me to say, am I in the world or am I what's moving the world? That means, where do I limit the context of my soul? To what do I limit it to? My understanding is that life is telling it, like, if life was a person, if like a person's lifetime, they live a life, and if the world, like the moment the world could say something, sometimes I feel it would be something like, yo, you're gonna enter this world. You're gonna think you're gonna have an objective position. You're gonna be able to navigate in this physical world, but you're also gonna be conditioned to think in a very specific subjective way about how you navigate in this world. Okay. But at the end, or I shouldn't say at the end, I'm trying to tell you that we are not this. This is the phase. This is a phase. And this world is teaching every soul in it that your mind cannot see all of it. So we are the small and the big, wondering about, when we identify with the whole thing, of course we're going to feel incomplete, but that's the game, I think. I've never, I'm starting, like, I can see this now, that I have been choosing not between my sufferings, but between my pleasures. I have been choosing which action is more pleasurable, rather than thinking, yo man, if I have two choices, if there's two actions I can do, which one's suffering is less? Or which one is, worth the suffering? I think by midpoint of life, life needs to transmute. I feel the future generations will reach this conclusion. That means it's an archaic revival. There was a time in human history, human lifespan, life cycle was up to the age of 25. Like you were 25, you were the oldest man. It's like lifespan was that long, right? More and more I'm realizing this world is like, if it could say something, it's saying like, yo, you're gonna think you know what's going on, but you don't know. And to me, it's like, yeah, my body's on earth, but my soul is experiencing an unknown being. It's as if all existence is the curtain. The show has not begun. We think this is the show. In religious traditions, they say the next life is better. If you go and look at human psychology, it's going to be fascinating, because you're going to see that not only human beings are, again, divided into past, present, future, but if you want to stabilize your past, you got to live in the present. If you want to stabilize your present, you got to live in the future. If you want to stabilize your future, you don't have to be in the world. It's the next world. Do you understand? So human beings have been using their experience in existence in the present to kind of recalibrate their experience of their existence in the past. So it's something equivalent to like this, that again, the efficiency of the past is based on your attention in the present. The efficiency of the present is based on your attention to the future. The efficiency of the future is based on your attention to the end of reality, to the next chapter. Legit, this is a novel and we're just going through this part of how it's written. It feels that way. Hi guys, welcome to the chat. Feel free to ask questions about the topics. You see, guys, I am not. One thing I've been, I guess, adjusting myself, but to understanding better. I feel there's a lag when you're younger. There's a lag between existence, the existential content and the experience. So it's like, I see something. That sight travels, we are under the assumption the sight travels into my brain, and then my brain somehow has this inner private room where it can see these different thoughts, and then choose one or whatnot. I'm starting to realize all my desires are based on the past, because I don't know what the future holds. My desires are based on human beings' pasts. That means if like, check it out, guys, isn't this the case? Like, if I ask you right now, ask your ego, what do you want? Like, there was a generation of young people, they're like, I want a Bugatti, I want to be a billionaire, you know? And guys, it's hilarious. These generations think they are themselves. There was a generation that thought fighting for your country was incredible. Do you know? Then there was a generation that realized the leaders who are in some sense leading that country are not incredible. Do you know? They're not fighting for their country. They're fighting for some dude's ego. Do you know? So what I'm trying to tell you is, I think everybody from the moment they wake up, they're trying to connect their energy to they're trying to connect their life force to a greater life force. And you know, as someone who you know, is no stranger to the bitterness of loneliness and solitude. Solitude isn't that bitter, but loneliness is. I am not afraid of, how do I tell you? I'm not afraid, I guess, on some level of what will happen. I'm afraid if what happens is not meaningful, or if it had a, because right now to me, because of the mind is living ahead of the body, your inner realms are faster than your outer realms. And in my inner realms, like, I can imagine flying cars, they don't exist. I can imagine sky cities, they don't exist. But the question is, should I be living in that sky city to stabilize now? That means accessible reality, past, present, future. Beyond that accessible reality, it's beyond the future of that reality. So if somebody says, Mr. Within, do you see anything beyond the future? I'm like, yeah, it's a different room. The reason we think that there's past, present, future is because we're in this room. This room is designed in a specific way, and we didn't design it. As far as I'm concerned, I am an unknown soul in some other being's world. Who is this being? And I know, because I've seen its presence. I've seen the presence. How do I explain it to you? I know there is something here, but I don't understand, why am I in this world? Why am I in somebody else's world? Why am I reading somebody else's book? And the answer, probably, what I intuitively feel, what the answer to that, like, you know, like, just secondary, you know, instantaneous uproar, what is that the whole system knows better how the elements in the system should happen rather than the element alone. So us being ideological human beings has actually denied our greater evolution. But we didn't have a choice, it moved this way. So if when you go to a dead end, what do? You know, you either stay there or you drive back out. Okay, and now we have to understand as a species that we have chosen a path. All our ancestors did. This was even before I was born, but it wasn't just them. The way this world is designed, it's designed to break you. You're designed to die here. Which means, what was the value of being me? Intense. But the thing is that, you know, I'm very grateful that you know, I was called towards Islam, and how I began to understand that this power is not comprehensible. In other words, it's like humanity, it's 8.1 billion kids, but there's an adult that's not in the room but watching over the kids, you know? Some kids maybe see the adult, but other kids don't. Most kids don't. Most kids are just having fun. So in some sense, in the middle of having fun, we forget where we are and what we are even. The dangers of joy. to become oblivious to the whole event. That means I'm not living one life, I'm living a micro life and a macro life. My micro life, all right, bro, just you're in these existential conditions, your current circumstances, just deal with it. My macro life, why am I here? Why do these eyes see this world? And why is the mind designed to project so many different probabilities of it? Because maybe it's a lost and found situation. Maybe you are lost as long as you think you are the force of your own, like you are the main reason of life. You're the main point of life. Because I think about it, if for a moment, I'm someone who has a lot of experience not caring for himself, disliking himself, hating his past selves for not activating. But it's fine. It's all fine. Because who was in charge of all of it? That means if someone drags you, excuse me, I shouldn't say this. If someone takes you and puts you on an island, and you forget you were put in that island, and you wonder about why you're on that island, I'm starting to understand the purpose of life was never me. It was how I could be used by the whole world. So world, come and use me. Oh, system admin, use me. For my individual life, what value when I see it? That's not right. I am upset because I notice there's something going on. This even surpasses physics. There's something going on. The world moment isn't a world in the same way that we are not just our bodies. Vedic thought, yogic wisdom said we're in God's dream. That where God is dreaming and we're the thoughts of this higher being. And these thoughts come and go just like how our own thoughts come and go. Islam says that the higher being, is beyond all conditional access. That means if you had an alphabet of all the conditions you've seen, so there is a truth that is accessible and a truth that isn't. And I feel that this world is the truth that isn't accessible. If truth isn't accessible, we're here for a role. If we're here for a role, then in some sense that role must be fulfilled, whether we move it or other forces move it. Somebody in the chat section says, have you tried mountain boarding? I guess, ideological mountains, yeah. You see, what it is we outgrow our realities. What could be happening right now could be this. I'm outgrowing who I feel I am. And it's weird. Because I guess it makes sense. In 2014, I had the vision of like giving these 10,000 talks, right? And I knew it was a lifetime project, but now I'm seeing that I didn't account for how the process will change who I am and how I feel. So me giving 10,000 talks is me staying honorable and living for my past self. That self who the first day I got the vision, the name Mr.Within's gift entered my mind, and 10,000 talks for the betterment of mankind. It was so clear. It was legit like, if I was, I don't know, I felt like I just knew. I had to do that. Okay, now that I've done it and I'm living through it, I'm starting to realize that I prioritize one activity over all the other activities, which means I am going through an identity crisis. But that identity crisis, for my mind, is very different. Because I know that I am present beyond my identity. Because I have had identified with various things. Guys, be very careful in life. What you decide to do ends up training you. And you know what's profound about this world? We don't know what will happen to us. And if you don't know, if you didn't know better, that means Islam was the religions were the system admin being like, at least I told them. So we know better. But the issue is that we don't know better at the same time because we are not the system admin. Anyways, to continue, there is so many intense things happening on this planet that are way more important than just how I feel, obviously. And right now, human beings are accessing different intensities of reality 100%. There's more messed up stuff happening on this planet than just ideological articulation or subjective positioning of objectivity. Sorry guys, I gotta answer a phone call. I'll be right back. Alright guys, back to it. You guys might not believe. I know it feels difficult based on the scale, but I do have a life outside of this podcast now. It's just that, I need to express the thoughts. Or I will have to think of it this way: what you don't express, what you don't communicate, sorry guys, just attention went outside of the car for a second. What was I saying? I feel like, of course, it's normal for a human being to change over time. We are under the impression we physically change, but a person's emotion on their own physical existence can change as well. I do believe in, I know that there is a invisible force behind the scenes that coordinates the moments. That means what ends up happening for human beings is not just based on their free will. This is very obvious to me. From one angle, okay, let me do something playful. Let me try to list the missions I feel I have as a soul in this moment. One mission, build an advanced civilization. That's like my, if anybody was like, yo, you got a wish, I'd be like the most advanced human civilization possible, and the most advanced humanity. You know, I would, that might, one of my, if it my one of that's my biggest worldly desire. You know, to be part of the advanced actual activity of the realm, not in my own sideline of a world. But of course the system admin brings those, you know. Yo, there's activity in the chat section. Welcome, guys. Somebody says, I'm in a state of doubt at the moment about religion, spirituality, and reality itself, but I don't love. But I don't doubt. Don't doubt. You know, you gotta okay, I feel like I understand what you're saying in the chat section. I would say that the moment I realized the way I see things others don't, I realized believing that I'm seeing exactly as others. To me, this world has a system admin. It's an existential simulated system. We didn't create it. We log into it every day. We log out at night. There is non-physical presence in the moment. The simple answer of this is that experientially we find ourselves as a moment of being, and within that moment we find content. For example, our body. For example, everything else we find in our moment of awareness. You know, like this coffee cup, whatever. You know. So to me, I'm reaching this conclusion that it's not per se about me to doubt something or believe something. The actuality of what is happening has a presence of its own. It's the experiential reality. Ideas and language and all this stuff is just tools we use to stabilize ourselves in the presence of our own uncertainty, in the uncertainty we feel. So think of it this way: the job of a human being is to maintain, I keep saying this, maintain a coherent self across all the conditions of their life. But what they don't realize is that this sense of self doesn't have to be in a format that you're acquainted with. Think of it this way: can I say things, can I talk about ideas that I don't know yet? Like, you know, like one thing I do in these talks, I've noticed many people haven't noticed, but I have a sort of, I don't know if it's an I believe it's the system admin's choice, but I am a person who, because I was my sense of self was defeated or self-defeated when I was young, I did not have this feeling of fighting. Like right now in the outer realms I speak intensely, but when I am just being myself, I'm just being the moment where everything's in the moment. If I choose to move in the moment, I animate as a self. And the whole point of it is, it's an incomplete system, yo. But it's excuse me, I should say it differently. It's not let me say it differently. Forget how I said that. It's a Our access to this system is incomplete. That's the biggest point. That means even if you doubt something or believe something, you got to ask yourself, okay, how much access do I have? That means if I meet someone once and I go and I assume like, yo man, that person was nice, that person's a nice person, or that person was rude, that person's a rude soul. Do you know what I mean? It's like I don't know. I just experienced an instance where that imagery and content was, right? And what's even more fascinating is you can never know what another being is, because what they are, again, of course, based on their own unique inner realms, and but aside from that, you don't know how else people can move. Pretty much what it is we are under the impression it's just physical movement, but no, it's a non-physical movement of attention that pinpoints where the physicality should move. Do you guys understand what I'm saying? Like, see, when I can tell you like this. Imagine a 5-year-old kid goes to a 50-year-old man, and that 5-year-old kid says, I know everything about the world. The 50-year-old man doesn't go and say, yo, you don't know anything. You're a stupid kid. It's like the 50-year-old man doesn't say that. The 50-year-old man laughs and says, oh, is that right? What do you know? But that 5-year-old kid may believe that they have the wisdom of a 50-year-old man. They have the awareness of a 50-year-old man. But it is not the case. So what this means is human beings can identify with what is not actually them. And if you feel doubt, you could be being something that you're not. It's not that you doubt the idea. The self that is engaging the idea is doubtable. Because what else can I do? I either doubt the world or I doubt myself. When I doubt the world tells me Dunning-Kruger effect, yo. You're in your own world, yo. Everybody's like, good job, bro. You doubted yourself. You didn't doubt the world, you know what I mean? This world is messed up. Nobody knows what to do. Deep down, I firmly believe subconsciously everybody's freaking out because our subconscious hasn't pinpointed where it is and what it actually is. All of human life is belief inside belief inside belief. What's so funny is that when religion says believe in God, we think that it's another action. We don't understand. Human civilization is a belief. It's a belief, but it's justified. It's existentially justified through the experience. Now, here's the question. I'll ask a question from anybody. This question is going to be amazing. You may doubt, or how would I say it? Man, the question left. Ooh. We are living in the belief, we believe we are human. It's an experiential access to the state of consciousness. I could come here and say, yo man, I'm like an angel, I'm a champion, I'm a superhero, or I'm a villain, I'm a super villain. I could say anything, okay? And everything that I feel I am, everything that I'm experiencing, or whatever sort of opinion my consciousness has on its moment, it's a state of consciousness. It's legit, like how you tune the radio. That means what's funny is if your self changes, your access to the world changes. And perhaps I shouldn't see this moment as if because I'm becoming a different person, that I'm not the same person and I shouldn't do the same things. Maybe I should become someone else. And that's the Mr.Within you need to hear. And in order to do that, I have to change my environment, because every day I wake up, my mind is like, where are you? And I'm like, oh yeah, none of us know the answer yet. Somebody in the chat section says perhaps the Cathar Gnostics were on point. I don't know who the Cathar Gnostics are, but I know who Gnostics are. The Gnostics are, I would say they're not on point. They're not on point because they treat a moderator as an admin. Okay, they treat, I forget the terminology, but if you're Gnostic, you believe in two gods. You believe in the God that created the realm, and then you believe in the God that is beyond any created capability. Or sorry, not capability, beyond any creation. Right? But because Gnostics worship the God of creation, not the God of beyond all creation, there's a difference there, you know? Yeah, guys, thanks for engaging. I appreciate it. Again, treat this lecture as a tree. You know, you're a bird. You can fly to different trees. I appreciate the fact that you care to even see what I was saying. So thanks, guys. Anyway, so where I'm going with this, guys, is that this is what I see. I'm in an unknown world. I'm actually an unknown self. I've been conditioned to know myself in a certain way and in a certain state of consciousness, you know. And because I've known, this unknown self has used a method, has become aware of itself to know itself. It has made a known world. So right now, you're not hearing the real me. You are hearing the known self in speaking about the known world, but where we actually are is an unknown world with a bunch of unknown selves that are tripping on what they actually are. I don't know, I feel I said that well. Now, I'm starting to realize something more important. I should stop watching, this is kind of on a tangent, but I don't know, I'll say it, like, guys, I've realized I should stop following, think of the brain influenced by the patterns it comes across, you know? And your decision in life is not what you do, it's where do you go and what patterns do you access based on where you went. You know, I think the smartest move, like think of it this way, imagine somebody there's a flood and they're in the basement. Or not a flood, but there's like, I don't know, let's say there is a flood and they're like in the basement. Or they're on the ground level of their house and water is coming in the house. Okay, so the person can get a bucket and try to push the water out, or they could be like, holy shit, I gotta relocate and access different realities. And perhaps that's it, guys. We human beings are under the impression we are absolutely treating a system that we must coordinate and navigate in. You know, I came across this in the research component I read yesterday, not yesterday, the day before yesterday. We are here not to destroy our enemies. We are not here perhaps even to create things, because the creator is beyond the room. There is a creator to the forces that lead to manifest creation. So it's like an unknown force is moving, a known force is moving, an unknown force is moving like a known force to realize that its known force is the unknown force. So we human beings have stabilized our reality with the considerations of knowism, knownhood. Okay, but the unknown means that you cannot, how do I say it? Right now, the scale of what I don't know is way more than what I know. Okay? So if knowledge is the small and the unknown is the big, knowledge is the small and the big, okay, we are right now being known beings in an unknown system. Why do we suffer by thinking we know ourselves? How are you all convinced that you know yourselves? That means if I wear a mask and look in the mirror and think that mask is my face, is that me? Is that my actual face? So then the question gets deeper. Is this our actual life? Or is this a masked life? Is truth masked? It's like like a human being noticing it's a physical entity, is that equivalent to like a person with a mask looking in the mirror and thinking the mask is who they are, their face, their real face? You see what I'm saying? So anyways, folks, I don't know what everything is deep down. I'm just here. I take what I find, what my consciousness accesses, and I reorganize it into purpose. So what I have been doing as a biological being, as a being actually, as a human being, is that I have been repurposing my existential awareness. So if my identity in this moment feels off, I do feel off. These last 2 days, I feel off. I don't know why. It could be that the time has come for me to be someone else. Or in some sense, go and be a different me. And so it's legit that moment where all my past selves are wondering who its future self would be. To me, it's funny. You know, I don't have one memory of myself. Me being alive in this moment and thinking, that's one memory. Did you know you can think simultaneously in all your memories? I have a playful relationship with my memories. I am there with my other selves. That means that I remember myself as a kid, and my mind can visualize me as a kid with standing beside me right now. My mind can visualize even future versions of me, but I can't see how they look like, but I can imagine how they act, what they're going to come and say. So anyways, folks, I don't know what's going to happen. I do believe there's a higher power in this realm. I know there's a higher power. I know that a higher power's will is beyond my understanding. And based on us being the small and the big, I understand that the value of my life is perhaps based is actions I do are more my identity than based on a sort of past character in a story memory trail only. Do you know? So it's about a sense of self. That means if in this moment, in the present, physical present, like I'm sitting in my car, my laptop's on my lap, you know, in this moment, I have access to one physical sense of self, like one sense of, I see one sense of self, and then this sense of self says, oh man, yesterday I was somebody, and remembers a memory. But I'm telling you, all your senses of self are simultaneously in the presence of an awareness field. So you human beings are under the impression, yo man, where do my thoughts come from? Wrong, error. Your thoughts are all existence. How do I explain it to you? It's equivalent to me saying existence has already happened. Now we are happening in existence. It's the second go around, playfully. There's various ways you can see it, who knows? And I just hope that if I have a potential, if all of us, if all human beings on earth right now have a potential, I guess the most important thing is the most important grace. This is divine grace to me. Merciful guidance. In other words, how do you want to return to the system admin after this life? How do you want to return to the original state? How will you feel about what you were this whole time before you leave? You know, they asked Muhammad Ali. To me, he's a great soul, lived an incredible life. This girl in this YouTube interview, like this YouTube video of him on some late night show, this girl comes and asks him, what are you going to do after you retire, sir? And Muhammad Ali, he had some next level cadence and rhythm. He spoke in verse, but very conscious being. But he said that I don't remember exactly. He said something like, I have 21 years to prepare to meet that power that brought me here. And it's funny because human beings believe in the greatness of God, but they don't believe in the potential greatness of God's creation. The Christian, the Muslim, the Jew, they brand each other in different rooms and they fight, not realizing their system admin in all the situations is telling them, yo, be kind. Because I did not create excuse me, because you did not create your enemies. They are not your enemies. That means perhaps the profoundest realization. Experience doesn't own existence. Or existence doesn't own, or experience doesn't belong to existence. Existence belongs to the original force. Because from a theological lens, I find myself as a commanded being. In theology, God commands existence into being. God doesn't build it like Lego. God commands. It's an absolute being's expression, you know? So God commands. God commanded the creation of man, imbued man with his essence, and then commanded, theologically speaking, commanded man theologically speaking, commanded man excuse me guys, my attention went outside of the car. Theologically speaking, God commanded man to say the divine names, and all manifestation almost bowed. In other words, the system admin's reality works with original commands. A soul is a commanded being. The lifetime can be seen as you trying to figure out how your soul was commanded to be here. You know, but the whole point of it is it's all being managed. The system's being administered by a power that human beings cannot comprehend. The power is beyond the world room. Human beings are wondering why they're in the world room. They realize that they're in the world room to do something. So I have been identifying with the result of my actions. I should be identifying with the action. Oh my God. Oh my God. I should be identifying as a verb, which I've said it, but I haven't been doing it. I should be a verb, therefore I shouldn't be a self? What does this mean? Ah! So guys, I guess I do feel better after realizing this. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, I do feel better. I have been making the result of my actions more significant than the force that makes the action, that leads to the action. I should identify with the verb of the force, the life force, rather than the life form. Therefore, to live as a life form is the new life, is the new way of playing this game. We should be the life force. We are the force. Why does it matter if we identify with the form or the force? They're both there. I'm sorry guys, I might not be explaining this in a way that you're comprehending properly, but it's so profound that I'm realizing to be a self is the flaw, is the issue. I have been allowing my emotions to arise based on the forms, not based on the force. Wow. So guys, those people who are just in the zone and you're just being how the moment is happening, you're way ahead. Well done. That means more important than Mr. Within and the 10,000 talks is the presence of the force. So in other words, I'm not just giving talks, it's the energy that's happening here. The talks are just the manifest tip of the iceberg visible. Which means if it's a verb, it's not fixed, it doesn't have fixed checkpoints. There's no such thing as life and death beyond the human experience. Doesn't make sense. It's all a verb. Life and death is the experience of the noun, reference points of the noun. So faith is the only thing that a verb can do. You can't have an idea because you're not a sense of self. There's no reference. Therefore, the faith in God doesn't mean you're a noun that has a faith in an unknown bigger noun. It means you realize it's all the higher will. It's the lower order processes are is the will of the higher order processes, which means, and what is will? It's the expression of force. We are the life force of the system admin, which means the force that moves life is original. But what that force experiences is not. It's simulated. Because we identify with our simulated life, we think spirituality is this mystery. It could be the other way around. It's just civilization played this game. I think I figured it out. But anyways, guys, there's so much I still don't see. Write your thoughts below, in the chat section. If you guys, resonating with what I'm saying, or you see further than what I'm seeing. And anyways, I'll end the talk here. I feel this is a good point. Anyways, in the name of God, the most benevolent, the most merciful, and the most advanced, all praise due to the Lord of the worlds. And my realization today has been that the Lord of the worlds is beyond noun, beyond the noun. I'm done living in the world of nouns. I'm going to become I feel it. I'm going to start living differently. How differently, I don't know, but to me it doesn't. I came to the resolution. I got the gift I needed from this talk. The unconditional are only free. Therefore, freedom for a conditional being is its closeness to the unconditional, which translates to all these simulated beings trying to get near to the original being of their world. Anyways, thank you for listening. Have a great night, guys.